Hi, everybody. This is Tammy from Singles Travel International and Single Life Today. And tonight we are pleased to introduce Matt and Rosie from Isolation Cocktails for Mixology. New year, new skills. We can all use a little bit of extra fun and maybe some extra drinks here in 2022. Matt, thanks for joining us again. Rosie, thanks again. Hope you guys are enjoying life up north. And for those of you who are wondering about my background, we are going to Tahiti in about 4 weeks. So there's still time to book if you'd like to. Without further ado, Matt and Rosie, Isolation Cocktails.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you for the, it makes me so happy to see so many people return, so many new faces and new voices, especially in 2022. As Tammy said, my name is Matt Laka. I'm going to be your mixology teacher for the evening. And of course, in studio, in the Isolation Cocktails kitchen, I am joined by the one, the only, the punctual, the talented Rosie Callahan. And there are her fingers right there on the screen. So Rosie is behind the camera, working the lights, working the magic. She also works our secondary camera. Now, I know that you have me pinned, so I've blown up quite big, but for whatever reason, if you'd like to see a closer view up on the cocktails, if you go to gallery mode, you can actually see that I've got an extra camera that shows off just my hands, just the cocktails, in case we get into any technique or any skills, which is kind of the theme of tonight's class. We're here in 2022. COVID, apparently, it was like, you thought I was done? I'm coming back for round two. So with Omicron here, we're going to be making cocktails at home, maybe for a little while longer. But at the end of the day, what I'm here to do is just to get you going, get you drinking again, get you thinking of cocktails in a new and different way. But the way this class kind of works is we're going to walk you through these cocktails step by step. I'm going to be drinking right alongside you because look, if I'm making the cocktails, I'm drinking the cocktails. But we do use the chat function quite a bit because while we're teaching and shaking and mixing things around, we keep the microphones on mute because it gets really loud. We'll give you time and moments to turn on your microphones and talk about the experience and the cocktails you're making or anything you might want to ask. But while we're teaching, you're going to want to use that chat function. So if you're new to the Zoom platform, chat function is going to be at the bottom of your screen. It's a little chat bubble. You're going to click on that chat bubble. It's going to open up a white column on the right side of your screen. Feel free right now, just so I know that you know where the chat function is, feel free to tell me what's your favorite place you've traveled with Single Life Today, or maybe your favorite drink you've had on vacation, your favorite cocktail, or maybe a combination of the two, if that so happened. I'll say that my favorite cocktail of all time right now is a salted hazelnut espresso martini. It really hasn't changed over the last 2 years because it really is the top notch for me. And I think my favorite travel location, it's a little weird, but I definitely have great memories when I traveled to Iowa, which is such a weird middle America place, but I got to go to the Iowa caucus, or the building with the big gold top. Anyways, I spent a week in Iowa doing a show, and I had a lot of fun in Iowa. Rosie, favorite cocktail and favorite, I guess, vacation destination that you've been, or maybe you want to go?
My favorite cocktail, I'll pick one, a fun one that I just learned. A leading lady is what it's called. You use a little bit of flaked gold in that, use a little bit of cognac. I'm an expensive girl. So I'll say that for now. And my favorite vacation is probably when I went to my cousin's wedding in Wales.
Oh,
it was wonderful.
If I could do a Welsh accent, I would do it in the moment, but that is not a talent I have. What do we got here down in the chair? We got Kir Royale, great drink, great cassis,
very nice,
classic. That is it. Speaking of a fancy lady cocktail, let me tell you, the Kir Royale. And then we got Greece is one of the favorite places. Oh, for sure, Greece is on. I think probably just seeing photos of Greece, I always go, oh, it can't look and it can't be that amazing, but I know that it is. What else we got here? We got favorite cocktail, mudslide, which is a good Mark's a partier. I can tell, with the mudslide being the choice of favorite cocktail, Mark's been to a couple of parties. Nice to see you, Mark. And favorite, Alaska. I feel there's only a handful of people on this planet that get to go to Alaska. So the fact that you can do that with Single Life Today is just awesome. All right, funny, my father is from Iowa, and I've been there once. And I want to go again, but actually Alaska maybe, and a must. Oh, there you go. You guys got some people on board with the same. Ooh, St. Germain Spritz. We got some drinkers up in here. People who know their way around a cocktail. Oh, Crete, yeah, back to the Greece and Alaska. A lot of people on the Alaska and Woodford Double Oak. Ooh, Woodford Reserve is definitely on the top notch of my favorite alcohols. There's no question about it. But folks, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We're going to be jumping into the cocktails in just a minute or two, but I need to touch base on things you might need on hand, other than the ingredients list that you probably already kind of accumulated if you're making cocktails with us tonight. You will need a thing or two. One of them is going to be a measuring tool of choice. So I like to use a jigger. You can use a shot glass, measuring cups, measuring spoons. For those who have been with us for the last couple of months, you already know what this is, but it's just a way of measuring ounces into our cocktails. And then, of course, the classic cocktail shaker. Now, if you aren't like me, you don't got a classic cocktail shaker, you can use a mason jar, you can use a water bottle, you can use anything you put liquid and ice into, shake and not make a mess. At the end of the day, we're not in a big fancy bar, all right? We're at home in our kitchens. I mean, kitchen's the best place to do it, in my opinion. Sometimes we make messes and that's okay. But I will say, use what you got on hand. Always ask, hey, Matt, I'm having trouble with this. Or Matt, I need some with this. Just let me know and we'll figure it out together. Everything else is kind of an extra and can be improvised. If we need a muddler, you'll use a potato masher. If you need a strainer, you'll use your spaghetti colander. We'll figure it out as we go. Alrighty, folks, enough blah, blah, blah out of me. You came here to drink. I actually came here to drink. So let's get into the drinking. I will say offhand, folks, since your mics are muted and we're here, it's a Thursday night, give yourself a little atmosphere, give yourself a little music, throw on a jam or two. If you're going to use, you can do your favorite, cocktail music or your favorite jams. If you're playing country, I'm not coming over, but that's all right. And then, of course, if you're making a beautiful cocktail with us, make sure to take a photo of what you're doing tonight, especially if you're gathered with some friends on the other end. Make sure to take photos, throw them up online, tag isolation.cocktails on any of the socials, or, of course, Single Life International. Make sure to tag them up. But I'm going to throw our first cocktail into the chat, folks. There is what you need for that first cocktail. It's down in the chat, of course. I'm going to walk us through it. There is one ingredient there that I hope that you have on hand, but if you don't, it's really simple to make, and that is our simple syrup. That's just a sugar syrup, folks. And all you need to do with this sugar syrup, all you want to make sure you do is just take a little bit of sugar, take a little bit of hot water, and mix it together. You want a 1-to-1 ratio, so just make it equal amounts. Like if you're doing 1 cup sugar, do 1 cup hot water. I wouldn't do that much, but I'm just making it simple. As long as it's equal parts sugar and equal parts hot water, you get a beautiful sugary syrup. That is the only thing that maybe you want to get on before we jump into it. But other than that, let's start off tonight. New skills. We're going to teach you how to properly muddle a cocktail if you've never done that before with this cocktail known as the Whiskey Smash. Now, the Whiskey Smash cocktail is one of the oldest cocktails out there. It is coming back all the way from the early 1800s. The Whiskey Smash is something that maybe was used, because when we're talking about that old, like the late 1800s, there's a lot of maybes when we talk about cocktail origins. But we're talking about a cocktail that was probably used for medicinal purposes. Got a lot of nice fresh fruit. It's got a lot of nice herbs to it, like mint. And essentially, the smash became not just a cocktail, but a whole kind of section of cocktails. And a smash is literally anything that uses alcohol, a seasonal fruit, a sweetener, and an herb. So let me teach you the OG. And then from there, you can kind of go ahead and go wild and make your own styles of smashes, because that's what we want to teach you here, a new skill. So for this cocktail, folks, I am going to be using myself a rocks glass, which is a nice short glass, but you can use any kind of glass you want here, folks. At the end of the day, glassware is more of a feeling and more of a personal thing, but you're going to want something with a little bit of girth. So not too dainty. There's going to be some things in here that we're going to want to put all together. So rule of thumb as bartenders, folks, chill down your glassware. Do yourself the favor and get yourself a cold glass going. So throw it in the fridge, put a little ice on the glass, or throw a little cold water in it and set that glass aside, because we don't need it quite yet. So I'm going to take this glass. I'm going to go ahead, throw a little cold water in there. set that off to the side. All righty, let's get this one started, folks. All right, cocktail shakers out. No ice in there yet, though, because we do have to get some muddling done. So with, like I said, a whiskey smash, this is, again, a very basic version, the most kind of classic version of a whiskey smash. We need some kind of seasonal fruit. And I mean, seasonal depends on where in the world you are, right? Lemons are fairly easy to get all over the world at any time of the year. So that is going to be our fruit for this. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself a knife, and I will cut up about 3 wedges of lemon. Now, if you say, Matt, well, how big are these wedges? All I'm doing is cutting my lemon in half, and then from there, doing thirds. So really, it's half a lemon at the end of the day is going into my shaker tin. I have just done the the due diligence of actually cutting these into thirds. So about half a lemon is going right into our cocktail shaker, just like that. And we're almost at the section 2 muddle. We have a couple more things we want to throw in there. So you don't want to just throw fruit and then muddle it, because at the end of the day, you could have just squeezed your lemon and be done with it. So we have a couple more things we want to throw in there. So before you even put your ice on, you're going to want to go ahead and grab that beautiful herb, that mint, going right in here. Dean Martin on the turntable and hot mint tea on with Kettle One and lemon. Might listen to Tower of Power when I drink a smash, keeping the options open. Oh, I'm liking keeping the options open. I
So
like
Dean
this.
Martin on the turntable.
Yeah, this is like
It
some
an
there's some
atmosphere
There's
tonight.
some classy vibes going on. Now, in terms of mint, how much mint do we want to put into this cocktail shaker? It's honestly up to you. At the end of the day, how much do you like mint? I preferably anywhere between 6 and 8 leaves. You never want to use the stem. You always want to pick the leaves off of the stem. That stem has got a really bitter kind of taste to it. Doesn't taste of mint. It tastes more vegetable than anything, or vegetable. That's a Canadian kid show. I'm going to go ahead and take about 8 to 10 of my mint leaves. And you could give them a quick smack or a quick rub, but since we're muddling, you can throw those just right in, not a problem. Now we've got mint and we've got lemon. We haven't even touched our alcohol, but let me tell you, we're already making some magic inside this cocktail shaker. So we've got our mint, we've got our lemon. We need to put a liquid in here, folks. You never want to muddle dry. That is the skill takeaway from this cocktail. Never muddle dry. You always want to muddle into some sugar, because when you muddle, you are expressing the essential oils, the flavors out of the thing you're muddling, but you need something to catch those flavors, and sugar is a great catch-all. So you're going to go ahead and grab your measuring tool, and we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce per cocktail. I say per cocktail in case anyone is making more than 1 cocktail in a shaker. So 3/4 of an ounce. So that's roughly just under your full kind of 1 ounce shot glass, perhaps. Or if you're doing a measuring cup or measuring spoons, you let me know. We could figure out the measurement together. But 3/4 of an ounce per cocktail going right into that cocktail shaker. So 3/4 for 1, 1.5 for 2, 2 1/4 for 3. You get my drift. Go ahead and grab that muddler. Now I gotta grab my muddler off screen here. I don't know what everyone else is using for a muddler. You know, I got the same muddler, Mark. I've got 2, so I've got my other one out. But looks like you got some muddlers, and it looks like over at Renee's screen, people are using spatulas, all different kind of stuff. That's what I like to see. So go ahead and muddle up that lemon, muddle up the mint.
Matt, we need a muddle check. Is our muddler good?
Your muddler is fantastic. I think you and Mark might have the same muddler.
How's our muddler?
And what you want to do here, folks, I like to push down. I like to twist my wrist. This way I'm getting a nice bit of turning happening. This way I'm getting a slight stir, not a huge stir, but this way I'm not muddling the same piece every single time. And then, of course, once you feel you've really kind of crushed, mushed, melded all of that together, take that muddler out and give yourself a little taste. Oh, yeah. It's lemon, mint, and sugar. You can't go wrong here. And if you have gone wrong, you took a weird left turn somewhere.
We're licking the muddler.
We're all adults here. That's what you do. All right, we're at home. That's what we're gonna do. No bar manager's gonna get mad at me. All righty, folks. We have finally made it to the step where you will actually do the thing that this cocktail shaker usually gets put in first, is some ice. So once you muddle down, go ahead and fill that cocktail shaker up with some ice. I'm gonna go ahead and just grab my little ice tray here. And we'll get this going. So in terms of how much ice goes into a cocktail shaker, it's a hotly debated thing. At the end of the day, ration your ice, especially if you only have a finite amount of ice on hand, I like to do about 3 or 4 ice cubes, not more than that. At the end of the day, we're going to be shaking this and getting rid of the ice, so don't worry too hard about it. All right, a couple of ice cubes in. Finally, we get to play with the alcohol. We get to play with the most expensive product on this cocktail. I am using a Canadian rye tonight, which is called Lot 40. It is one of my new favorites. Feel free to show up what you're using tonight for whiskey. Throw it up to the screen. I'm curious. I can already tell over at the Renee household, we got my favorite Woodford Reserve, you know, household after my own heart right there. Let me tell you, we got some Bullet over at Mark's place, looking good. I happened to catch what was Tammy was using over there, which was some good top shelf stuff, no doubt. Alrighty, folks, we can go ahead and do 2 ounces worth of whiskey, rye or bourbon, whatever your poison may be. 2 ounces going right over that ice. And of course, that's 2 ounces per cocktail. So 2 for 1, 4 for 2, 6 for 3. You get the gist. I do recommend, if you are making cocktails with more than one person, you don't want to go higher than 3 cocktails in one shaker. Even that, depending on the cocktail, is pushing it. So if you have a couple of cocktail shakers for multiple people, obviously the way to go. But if not, three cocktail liquids, 3 amounts of cocktail in one shaker is probably the limit. All right, but once we got all of those things in, folks, you can go ahead and close up that cocktail shaker. That's going to be your mint, your lemon juice, your sweetener, that's simple syrup, and your whiskey. And once you got it nice and closed up, folks, let's give it a shake. Let's take it to town. No wrong way to shake. All righty. If you're using a metal cocktail shaker like so many of us are, you're going to want to take a look and hope that you get a little condensation on the outside. If it's getting sweaty, that's a good thing. It means you're shaking it nice and vigorous. And if it's cold to touch on the outside, let me tell you, it's cold on the inside as well. All righty. So we've got a lot of stuff going on in this shaker, right? So first things first, we're going to get rid of maybe that ice water or ice that's been melting in your cocktail glass. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to put some fresh ice into our glass. I mean, this is an option. You don't have to, but I prefer to. I'm going to grab myself a nice large king cube to go into my rocks glass here. Just pop that right out. Pop that in. And now you may or may not have this next part, folks, depending on what you got on hand. But if you happen to have one of these, this would be a fine mesh strainer or a small colander or a tea strainer. I'll throw it off in the cocktail cam so you can see it up close. Oh, I'm liking the small balls, the small spheres. It's a good classic cocktail ice. And folks, I am double straining this cocktail. That means I am using my Boston Shaker strainer up top and my fine mesh strainer because we've got mint shards, we've got whole lemon pieces in here, and you don't necessarily want those in the cocktail. So by double straining this, what we're doing is we're catching those little kind of pieces that would escape, those little finite sections. And I just got to grab myself a bar spoon. Didn't give myself all my tools today. And I'm just going to move around the little shards that got stuck in my strainer just so I can make sure I'm getting all of this cocktail out. And I'll put that off to the side. And then finally, we've got a beautiful cocktail almost ready to go here, but a garnish. You got to garnish your cocktail. If you want something to look beautiful, something presentable, garnish is what it's all about. So I do encourage you, if you have some leftover mint, go ahead and grab yourself a nice bushel of mint. There is no wrong amount for mint as a garnish. It's beautiful. So I like to give myself a nice large bushel, and I like to give it a little love, a little TLC on the wrist, just so that this gets nice and fragrant. When you smack an herb, it releases its essential oils. And I'm going to go ahead and tuck that in just like that. That's a beautiful looking whiskey smash, if I don't say so myself. All righty. And of course, once my friends are done mixing theirs, there's a couple people mixing still and combining things. Feel free when you're ready to show off that glass. And hopefully for those who aren't mixing with us today, taking notes or whatnot, hopefully you got a beer in your hand. Hope you got a glass of wine. Feel free to, cheers with us as well with whatever you got going on at home. But this is a golden, beautiful color. Can't wait to get into it. I'm going to hang back for just a second while Tammy strains off hers. I can see the Tammy household getting their stuff done. I see Mark with a tree worth of mints, which is like a smart. Let me tell you, it's going to be real nice on the nose. Let me tell you. And if you folks are interested, feel free to turn on your microphones and we'll do a little cheers to the first cocktail of the night, the first cocktail of 2022. I mean, first cocktail together. I doubt it's your first cocktail of the year.
Yeah, well, we are not doing dry January, that's for sure. Cheers, guys. Happy New Year. Cheers.
Cheers.
How's our golden color?
Very good.
Cheers, Mark. Let me see. What do you got? A palm tree in there? What the heck? That looks good. Mark's ready for Tahiti.
I bought a bunch of mint and it seemed to be longer than
Mint is like a proper weed. It just grows and grows and never stops.
I'm below the line.
This is called the Whiskey Smash.
Oh, yummy.
So delish.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. The Renee household, how are you three enjoying this one?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent,
definitely.
excellent.
For those of you who for those of you who don't have one in your hands, let me just give you an idea of what this is kind of tasting like. We're getting a nice kind of fresh, almost citrusy pop from that lemon. And then of course that mint is nice and fragrant in the nose, which just adds more flavor to the cocktail in terms of nose connecting to mouth. And then that whiskey really does push through. But folks, cheers to the first one.
Cheers. Delicious.
All righty, that is our first cocktail in the bag, your first new skill, your first new cocktail on the list. I say new, I mean, it was created back in the 1800s, but new for a lot of people because things kind of fall off the wagon, which, it's good to remember. It's almost like a time machine. They were having this back in the 1800s before there were refrigerators that made ice. So, it's always fun to think about the time machine that is cocktails. All right, folks, that is your first cocktail of 3 cocktails in the evening. I don't know how often you have 3 cocktails in an hour. For some people, it's been a hot minute, but people like to relive their college days, right? Like I do. I know I do. So folks, we're going to jump right into our next cocktail. But of course, if you got a cocktail shaker that's still full of lemon and mint, make sure to rinse out your cocktail shaker before we jump into the next one. I'm going to throw the ingredients list down in the chat. And for folks who are like, hey, can I get the recipes? These are all on the Single Life International site, and I believe in your newsletter. So if you're like, hey, I want to get these recipes, you can check out this video. I know it's going to get uploaded later, and then you can follow along with that newsletter. It's got tons of great information in it. All righty, folks. I'm going to grab our next cocktail, and I'm going to throw it into the chat. We're already on a good pace. We're gonna bring it into what I like to call more of a relaxed cocktail, more of a cocktail that honestly doesn't get done anymore. And those are my favorite styles of cocktails because it gets to kind of bring something back. So we're gonna be going back again to the 1800s. Well, 1800, more like 1920. So we're moving up just a touch in the timeline of cocktails. This one may not be everyone's favorite. It's more of a sour style cocktail with a touch of a kick of sweetener. This cocktail, folks, is known as the Brown Derby. And the Brown Derby cocktail has its home. It was created in the US, or it's possible it was made at the exact same time on the other side of the world. It's a really cool cocktail with a really cool origin story. So the Brown Derby, I'm just going to make sure I get my dates right in my notes here because I like dates. Take us back to 1923. There's a bartender at a bar called the Vendome Cafe, which happened to be at 6665 Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, California. They happened to be a bartender who worked at a couple different places, but they started creating this cocktail there for that menu. But across the street was this derby hat, a derby hat shaped restaurant. And they saw it every day outside their windows. So they called this cocktail the Brown Derby, because right across the street was a brown derby hat shaped restaurant, which is ridiculous. But that being said, that's where the cocktail name comes from. But then what's weird about this is the exact same ingredients list also appears in one of the most famous cocktail books of all time, the Savoy cocktail book, which was published in 1920. So just a 3-year difference there. So 1920 Savoy, and then in Hollywood, California, 1923. Now, the name of that cocktail in the Savoy cocktail book in England was de Rigueur cocktail, which was a French name, but it had the exact same ingredients and exact same measurements. So it's very weird that these two identical cocktails with two very different names appeared at the same time out of nowhere, had a very, very large ceiling in terms of their popularity, and then kind of died off as we moved into the 30s and 40s. So this cocktail has got a little bit of London influence, a little bit of California influence, and hopefully you enjoy it a lot. So let's just jump into this one. So here we go, folks. For this one, I like to use a cocktail glass that would have been found very often in the early 1920s. I'll show it off nice and kind of up close. This is called a Nick and Nora glass. It's quite dainty. I'll show it off in the cocktail can as well. It's kind of on the smaller side. The Brown Derby isn't a voluminous cocktail. We don't need a very big glass. There's not a ton of liquid. So a kind of smaller, daintier glass goes a long way. Also just makes me feel like I'm drinking in the 1920s. I might be wearing a derby hat or something. So we're good to go there. So a smaller glass, by all means, but really any glass is good at the end of the day, 'cause it's all going to taste the same. I'm going to go ahead and chill down my Nick and Nora glass. And I'm going to throw an ice cube. I'm going to pop that right in there. And we'll toss that off to the side. Alrighty. Next up is your cocktail shakers. Get those out. And this one's more of a straightforward cocktail. So go ahead and just take the cocktail shaker and fill her up with some ice. We're going to get it going here. Now, I haven't made this cocktail in probably a year and a half. I'm really excited because I kind of forget what it tastes like. So for me, it's kind of like I'm experiencing it for the first time. I know I enjoyed it. And I know I enjoy the history and the story of it. It's been a hot second since I've had the ingredients on hand. Grapefruit is the one that doesn't happen to be in the house all the time. So, as you can see, what's great about this cocktail, really, really small on ingredients, not an overhaul, not going to break the bank on this one. But we will start off with our 1 ounce of pink grapefruit. Now, I couldn't find grapefruit juice at the store, so I got myself a grapefruit, and I am going to juice a part of a grapefruit. We only need about 1 ounce, so we don't need a ton of actual grapefruit if you're going to actually juice it like me. But if you have a bottled grapefruit juice, great, no worries. Go ahead and get yourself 1 fluid ounce per cocktail. 1 fluid ounce of grapefruit juice per cocktail. I'm going to go ahead and grab my hand juicer, and I'm going to juice this puppy right into my glass here. There we go. Ooh, yeah, there we go. Gotta be careful with, yep, I'm just gonna spray the camera, spray my laptop, occupational hazard, I suppose. And that's almost 1 ounce. I'll probably get just a touch more grapefruit here. I wanna make sure that I get a nice, this is our balancer, it's our citrus. A pink grapefruit has got quite a bit of tartness to it. It does have its natural sweetener, especially if you're using one out of a bottle. It probably already has sugar added. So you don't need to worry about this being overly tart, but if you are a lover, well, if you are a lover of grapefruit, something like a Paloma or, those other kind of classic grapefruit flavors, this is going to be a way of touching grapefruit in a different way, because whiskey and grapefruit often do not mix, and I think they truly should. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that fruit, and I'm also just going to wipe down my section because I like a nice clean section at the bar. A lot of bartenders I know can work in mess. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. All right. So we've got our grapefruit juice, our 1 ounce of grapefruit juice. Next up, we'll go ahead and grab, look, it's called the Brown Derby for a reason. We're using the good stuff, the good old Canadian gold, that maple syrup. I'm telling you right now, it's my favorite sweetener on the planet. Maybe it's because I'm Canadian and I'm biased, but this is good stuff. This is like liquid gold. Let me tell you, if you all would come over, we'd have some pancakes, we'd go to a sugar shack. It'd be a really great time. But we're going to do about 1/4 of an ounce to 1/2 ounce. I'm saying I'm giving you some wiggle room 1/4 to 1/2 ounce of maple syrup, depending on how sweet you like your drink. Now, let me tell you, this cocktail is not going to be overly sweet. It's going to actually be quite balanced. Probably a little bit on the tart side of balance, but fairly balanced because, like I said, grapefruit, it's a tart fruit. So this is going to help us get a little bit of balance and a little bit of that warming maple syrupy feeling is what we're going for. All righty. And then finally, back to the other liquid gold. We're going to go back to our alcohol. So go ahead and grab your whiskey, your rye, your bourbon, whatever you happen to be using for this puppy. And we're doing 1.5 ounces of whiskey. Now, this is actually a small pour. You could bump this up to 2 ounces if you're so inclined. If we're into partying on a Thursday night, feel free to bump that up to 2 ounces if you so choose to. But 1.5, again, this is a smaller cocktail. It's a sipper cocktail. It's a pre-prohibition cocktail, or right around prohibition at the end of it, actually. That's why this cocktail has only a couple of ingredients. And you can go ahead, once you got the maple syrup, the grapefruit, and that whiskey all together, go ahead and close up that cocktail shaker. And when you're ready, give her a good shake. All righty. I'm loving the different techniques. I'm watching the Tammy screen. We got lots of motions going on. And at the end of the day, like I said, no wrong way to shake. As long as you shake it hard and vigorous and you got things sloshing, that is all you need. There's a bartender out in Vegas who said that if you're not smiling while shaking, that is the only wrong thing you can do. Because if you shake without a smile, it's super freaking awkward. You look like a robot. You look like a menace. Is what you look like behind the bar if you're not smiling and shit. Especially if you lock eye contact with someone across the bar. That's weird as a bartender. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the ice, chilling my Nick and Nora glass. And this cocktail, folks, is served straight up. Straight up, meaning, of course, without ice. So that means we'll be straining our brown derby out of our cocktail shaker and into our glass. And this is coming out almost like a dark apple cider kind of color. Nice, dark, cloudy. And remember, it's this dark, but we still have pink grapefruit juice in here. Like, it's very deceiving to the eye, which is kind of exciting. And then in terms of a garnish, totally up to you. You can do a little peel of grapefruit, a little peel of orange. I've got my grapefruit here, so I'm going to do myself a quick little peel of some grapefruit, because it's always nice to inform your cocktail, or rather the person who's drinking, especially if you're going to give this to a guest who doesn't know all the ingredients in your cocktail. It's always nice to give them a clue with that garnish, similar to what we did with the mint with our whiskey smash. They would have known, oh, you probably muddled some mint in here, or that was kind of nice and fragrant. I'm just cutting up a grapefruit slice, or rather a peel. Just gonna wipe that down on my cocktail glass, and there you go. You got a beautiful grapefruit zest kind of sitting on the edge there. I'll show it off to the cocktail can first. Cocktail can is looking pretty. It's looking elegant. It's looking quite nice. And I'll show it off here next. And folks, when you've got that ready to go, feel free to turn on that microphone, and we're doing a second cheers of the night to a cocktail between words. Alrighty. So we've got everyone there. Everyone's looking great. All right, folks, cheers to the brown derby.
Cheers. Cheers. The pink derby.
Oops, my orange fell off.
Uh-oh.
Oh my God.
Oh, they look delicious.
She's freaking phenomenal. We are so good. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Matt, that is yum. You're right. Whiskey and grapefruit juice go very well together.
That's good.
Right?
I love it right after everybody took a sip. It's like, it was very nice.
I haven't had this. I haven't had this for close to a year and a bit, and this has surprised the heck out of me. Mark, what are we thinking? You're having a sip of it again?
It's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Nice, it's ice.
I'm not a big grapefruit fan,
I love it.
but I don't taste much of the grapefruit, which for me means it's good.
I mean, that's not a bad review from a grapefruit denier. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
That's all right, Mark. That's like the skinny girl drink, right? We love grapefruit. Just give me some grapefruit and booze and we're good to go.
Yeah.
I think it's the Canadian maple syrup.
Yeah.
I'll say this, Bill, right on the money. The big notes you're getting out of this, you're getting a little bit of that maple. It kind of transcends the entire cocktail, that kind of sweetness. But what's nice, it's not overly sweet. I don't take it. It's like biting into candy, because that grapefruit really does help balance it out. And then, of course, the big modifier here is you're going to be your choice of rye, whiskey, or bourbon. And depending on, if you got something a little peatier, like an Irish whiskey, something a little sweeter, like a Canadian whiskey or rye, a bourbon that's got caramel and molasses notes to it, that is all going to change this cocktail depending on what you're using as your main spirit. But
Crown Royal.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, I love
Crown
Crown
Royal,
Royal.
great.
Yeah. I have to admit, I went to the half ounce of maple syrup.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yep, man after our hearts.
What did you do, Mark? I missed that.
Mark is in.
I went on the heavy side with the maple syrup. Half
Okay,
ounce.
I think that's what actually, because usually the grapefruit would be kind of tart, right, or sour, but then adding that maple syrup tones it down. Okay, cool. Back to you, Matt.
Yeah, not a problem. All right, folks. That is 2 cocktails down and 1 left to go. We've got the last cocktail is an absolute classic, but it does have a couple of steps. It's got some science involved. If we have any science lovers in the audience, let me tell you, I don't know much about science. I know a couple of things, and you're going to learn literally the couple of things I know about science. But we're going to jump into this one. So if you've never knew how to make this next cocktail, because I know you've all had one, it's one of those kind of cocktails that everyone grows up at least having once at a cocktail party, or someone gets it for you and you're like, oh, I've always thought to order this, but never have. Make sure, of course, before we jump in, to rinse out those cocktail shakers, because you're going to want to make sure that you got a nice clean shaker for this one. I'm going to grab our next cocktail and I'll throw it down into the chat here. And I will grab those ingredients. There we are. And we'll pop that right into the chat for our last cocktail together of the evening. There it is. Again, not overly complicated, but there are some fun and interesting things in this one. Egg whites being the big one. All right, folks, let me tell you about this cocktail while you rinse out those cocktail shakers and enjoy the brown derby, or what's left of that whiskey smash. This cocktail, folks, is known, of course, as the whiskey sour. Now, look, the whiskey sour. It's one of the classic whiskey cocktails out there, but there's some really cool history. And again, it finds an odd home between the US and England. So the sour, really quickly, the sour comes to us from when there were British soldiers in the Navy on their ships. They were given rations every day or every week with, food and water and this and that. But in their rations, they were given 2 very important things to mixology history, which was lemons and crude rum. The crude rum wasn't to be used to get drunk on. It was actually to disinfect their water. The idea was that water wasn't always clean on the ship, so put a little alcohol in it and it'll clean out your water. But we're soldiers, we're Navy officers, we're getting drunk on this stuff. So we're gonna take those lemons, we're gonna squeeze them into our crude rum and create what we would later know to become the sour. So these Navy officers and soldier, Marines, that's the word I'm looking for, would come to shore and they'd have this hankering for a sour drink. So they go up to the bartender and say, hey, can you make me a sour drink? And the idea of a sour drink was born. But where does the whiskey sour come from? The whiskey sour comes to us from 1890 out of Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin had a newspaper that was like an imbibe. It was a cocktail kind of enthusiast kind of thing. And they were the first publishing of a whiskey sour with egg white is in this magazine out of the 1890s, right out of Wisconsin. So if you know any Wisconsin people, give them a pat on the back, thanks for a great cocktail. But we'll teach you how to make that right now. So for the whiskey sour, literally a whiskey sour can be put into any glass. It does not matter. I like to use myself a coupe glass. I'm using something with a bit of a stem and a nice wide open mouth. glass because with egg whites, we're going to make it into a foam. And that's part of the science we're going to jump into in just a moment. But for this cocktail, of course, chill down your glassware. So I'm going to grab myself an ice cube. I'm going to pop that ice cube on the glass or in the glass. I'll set that aside. And we're going to grab our cocktail shaker, folks. And you're going to keep that cocktail shaker bone dry. No ice in that shaker because we need to do what we call in the industry a dry shake, which means a shake of all of the ingredients with no ice involved. And why is that? Well, that goes back to the science I was talking about. So folks, who here, hands up for those who are on screen, or you can sound off in the chat, who here has never had, or yeah, let's go with never had an egg white cocktail, has never enjoyed one, never tried. Oh, we got one. Okay, we got a couple. So a lot of people have aversions to egg white cocktails, and they're mostly myths. Mostly, I would say 100% myths. One of them being, egg whites, those are slimy. Well, if you shake them hard enough, they emulsify into a foam, and the foam has no taste. It's like an extra texture thing. So don't worry about slimy contents. The other big one is germs. So let me tell you right now, germs. You know what kills germs? Just like back in the 1800s with the Navy officers? Alcohol. We're about to kill this egg white with a lot of alcohol. So don't worry about germs. And then on top of that, we're adding a citrus, which at a molecular level will actually cook your egg whites. So if you were to leave egg whites in a vat of lemon juice and you came back an hour later, those egg whites would be cooked off, which is crazy to think about. So for this, folks, we're going to be doing an empty shaker, which means, of course, no ice. Go ahead and grab yourself one egg white, which is roughly an ounce worth of egg white. So depending on the size of your eggs, or if you're using a carton of egg whites, I'm just going to quickly separate my egg white from my yolk. And all I'm doing here is just cracking an egg, just kind of opening it up slightly, just kind of letting that egg white kind of trickle out. I'll pop that out there. Then I'm going to toss this egg white right into my shaker. Now I'm going to say this, folks, if you are making multiple cocktails in one shaker, just one egg white is enough for everyone. One egg white per cocktail shaker. You don't want to go too heavy on the egg whites. It emulsifies really quickly. All of that foam will come bursting out of your cocktail shaker. So one egg white per cocktail shaker, no matter how many cocktails you are making. So one egg white per shaker, folks, that is a little bit of a trick, and I'm saving you a mess. At the end of the day, you would have learned it anyways, but I'm just saving you the messy part. That's all. All right, so we've got our egg white in here. Let's get these other ingredients going. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of simple syrup, of course, the sweetener of all this. I'm going to do 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. Now, you could do any sugar here. You can do simple syrup. You can do a brown simple syrup. You can do that maple syrup you just used. You can use an agave syrup. Literally any sweetener here will work, and it's often used as a modifier in whiskey sours, is changing up that beautiful bit of sugar. So we've got that 3/4 of an ounce per cocktail. I should have mentioned 3/4 of an ounce per cocktail. So that's 3/4 of an ounce for 1.5 ounces for 2, 2 1/4 for 3, and therefore, and others and such things. So we've got our simple syrup rock, and we're gonna do the exact same amount of lemon juice into our cocktail shaker as we just did sugar. So we're gonna do 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. That's gonna be about half a lemon. About half a lemon will get you there. Now, of course, we're using the bottled stuff, not a worry. There is nothing wrong with using bottled ingredients if that's what you have on hand. At the end of the day, a lot of bars these days are using bottled ingredients, unfortunately. Of course, fresh is best, but at the end of the day, it's really what you have at home and what you can use. There we go, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. And let's get into this. We've only got really one more ingredient to go, and that's going to be our fantastic bourbon, rye, or whiskey. All righty. And we're going to do ourselves 2 ounces, a good pour of the gold stuff. 2 ounces is what we're looking for. 2 ounces per cocktail. So 2 ounces for 1, 4 ounces for 2, 6 ounces for 3, and so far and therefore and after. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with that today, but I just am. All righty, folks. So we've got everything in there. The bitters are an afterthought. Do not put your Angostura or aromatic bitters into your cocktail shaker. For now, all I want you to do is close up that cocktail shaker again with no ice. That means your egg white, your simple syrup or sugar, your whiskey, and your lemon juice are sitting in your shaker alone. Now, when you go to shake this, what's important here is you want to hold on tight to your top, because let me tell you, we're adding air, we're emulsifying something, which means we're adding pressure into our cocktail shaker. So you want to hold on tight, otherwise that top might just pop off on you. So give it a hard shake, because the harder you shake it and we agitate it, the better that foam is going to come out. So it's a little bit of a risk reward scenario. So good luck, and if you make a mess, grab a tea towel. All right, 3, 2, 1, let her rip. All right. Getting good foam on. Like I said, the harder you shake this, the better. So I like to go for about 20 seconds or, however long my arms, they give out a little sometimes beforehand. What we're going to want to do is once you're done shaking this, you're going to want to pop some ice into this and give it another mean shake. And you don't want to dilly-dally between, because you don't want that foam to die. So as soon as you're done shaking, open that up. Ooh, it's okay. We got a little foam going. We're going to grab our ice. We're going to go ahead and pop that right into our shaker. It's not a race. It's not going to die out immediately, but we do want to make sure that we get that ice in there ready to go pretty quickly. And then you're going to want to shake it over ice, which would be called Oh, go ahead.
Matt, have we added the bitters yet?
We have not. We will not be adding
We have
bitters.
not.
Okay,
Okay, okay,
Don't you worry.
okay. Hang on, don't say anything.
All right, I've got some good ice shaken in there. Now I'm going to open up this cocktail shaker, get rid of my ice in my glass, and I will be straining out what I have in here. We should be getting this almost gold and fluffy texture, which once you let it settle, that foam will settle right at the top. It's going to look really cloudy at first. You got to let that sit for about 25 to 30 seconds and let all those air bubbles and all the air to come to the surface. So we get a beautiful, rich and white foam at the top. Not necessarily a thick foam, not like a cappuccino foam, but something a little thinner, but it's going to be a nice texture on the lips. Hopefully you got yourself a little foam if you gave it a nice hard dry shake. Now, we were talking about bitters a second ago. There you go. Mark's got a nice thin line layer. It doesn't have to be super thick. Also, the thickness of your foam will depend on the mouth of your glass. The wider the glass, the thinner that foam is going to be. The kind of stout, more narrow glass is going to look like a lot of foam. So, depending on that glass shape. The last ingredient, folks, is going to be your bitters, what Renee was talking about. So those Angostura bitters are an aromatic. This is not necessarily for taste, but for smell. So what you're going to want to do here is on your foam, really kind of delicately and kind of easily put a couple of drops on the foam. You can make a design with it. You can kind of, a couple of drops. I like to do about 4 or 5, and I like to do them around all the way. So maybe like 6. I do like 6 little dots on the top of my foam. And now look, I have a dasher, which is a more, I have a bit more finesse with my dashes. You might just be able to top a couple dashes on, and it might look like a bit of a paint splatter, but that's okay. That is totally fine. Why are we doing this if it's not for the taste? Well, let me tell you, egg white, last bit of science. If you got a bad egg, folks, what does a bad egg smell like once you've agitated and shaken it? Well, it's going to smell like a wet dog. But that doesn't mean that it's not safe to drink, because remember, we killed all the bacteria with the lemon and the alcohol. So what these aromatic bitters are doing is giving you the smell right off the top of cloves and of cinnamon. That is what Angostura is made out of, or aromatic bitters. So it's more of a smell thing. But folks, here is my finished product of my whiskey sour. It's looking good. Feel free to turn on those beautiful, beautiful voice boxes of yours. And we'll cheers to our last cocktail of the evening and our first completed class of 2022.
Burn it all or just leave it?
Gorgeous.
All right, folks, cheers.
Oh, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Salud.
Woo-hoo to
Cheers.
22. I'll take one of these.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, my
Oh,
little
my
made
God.
it. Yummy. Yummy, let me try.
Oh, yeah.
Right here.
This is gonna be your classic whiskey sour taste. A nice high lemon kind of concentration with a little bit of that sweetness. That foam should kind of stick on that upper lip if you're lucky.
Not on me.
Renee family, how are we feeling?
Let's see, I think I'm unmuted. We're liking it. I personally, I like the second one the best, but Linda likes this one the best.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Everyone's got their favorite. That's good. This way there's no fighting over the cocktails. That's, it's a solid plan. But folks, give yourselves a round of applause. Get killed. In an hour. I just want to say thank you so much for having Isolation Cocktails back with you, Tammy, and the rest of Single Life International. It's an absolute pleasure every single month. And we've got classes with you folks till the end of the year. We're super excited to be on board on the cruise ships, on wherever you are, we want to be. So thank you so much. And of course, if you're feeling generous, you feel like leaving a tip to your bartender, you can always go over to PayPal.com and type in isolationcocktails@gmail.com. Nothing is too small or too big. We appreciate that very much. But folks, thank you again to all of you for showing up and having a drink with us. And we can't wait for next month, because next month's going to get a little sweet. It's going to get a little spicy. Valentine's Day is coming up. So, we want to make sure that you're prepared for that special someone or someones in your life. Thanks so much, Tammy.
All right, thanks, Matt, so much. I hope you guys had a great time. I'm going to turn the recording off for anybody who's watching this in the future, and then we'll connect with some cheers and more conversation.